Hello YouTube, it's me, back here with another video on the Modern Vikings YouTube channel. Today I'm getting around to something I've been meaning to do for a while, that I've wanted to do for a while, um, but I haven't really done it yet, and that is share the story. This isn't going to be like drawing or whatever, it may have some illustrations, but I'm going to be sharing how we got to this point in Modern Vikings, the story up to Set 1 War of the Gods, because it's like the cards, if you just look at them, it doesn't really have any meaning, but I want to put a story to it. So yeah, I'll be sharing that today, and hopefully that is good, and hopefully denoising takes away the music, because I think there's gonna be music in the recording because my mom's painting. But yeah, let's get into this. We start the story with a man named Eric. Eric Leifson. Eric Leifson is a professor. He mainly studies Nordic mythology, Nordic folklore, anything that has to do with old Scandinavia. He studies the gods like Loki and Thor, Odin. He studies all of them. He teaches classes on them, and that is his life. He loves it. But no one really thought that he was as serious with it as he was. Eric was really into this stuff, so much into it, in fact, that he believed that it was real, that these gods and all of these different things he taught were real. He believed that Odin, with the help of his two brothers, killed Ymir, the first giant, and created what we now know to be as Earth, with all the matter that dropped from Ymir's body. Now, he didn't always believe this. When he was a boy, his father was into this Nordic folklore and mythology as well. His father was named Leif, and that is why Eric's name was Leifson, his last name, because his family for generations had undergone the custom of using your father's first name as your last name. Eric's father also believed that all this was real, and that is where Eric kind of started his obsession with this. As Leif, Eric's father, was, well, he was very serious about this. Leif thought that he could bring back those gods, that magic. He had believed that they had either been killed off by the people, or that they had left because no one had faith in them. And Leif was going to bring them back. He knew it. And he passed that ambition onto his son Eric. When Eric was a small boy, he always heard stories of how his father planned to bring the gods back. The gods and the dragons, the dwarves, the elves, the giants, 9 realms. It was all that Leif talked about to his son. And so, as a professor, Eric still believed this, and he believed that he would be the one to bring the gods back. One thing that Leif did that not a lot of people knew about is he would go and he would find sites of old Nordic ships or villages, and he would go through them and he would try and find things. One day he was digging with a team of very skilled archaeologists. They were uncovering a Nordic ship. They had been at it for about 2 months now, because usually it would be quicker than this, but something about this ship was strange. They couldn't remove any of the wood. Not that they would want to, of course. They wanted to keep it as intact as possible, but one day one of the workers accidentally hit one of his tools into the wood, expecting it to splinter and for the board to be knocked loose. He was very afraid at first, but then he realized that the wood, well, under pressure, it hadn't splintered like normal wood. It had almost folded like fabric. And he thought it was a strange quality. And so this worker reported it to Eric Leifson. And Eric, he got to the site, and he goes through the ship, prying at boards, but they don't seem to come loose. They won't even budge. What they would do is almost bend like fabric so that your fingers just fell off. It was a really unusual quality that Eric had never seen before, and he was very intrigued. He believed that this was remnants of old rune magic from the Vikings themselves. Now, Eric figured that this was the closest he would get, so he told the workers to leave, and he started prying at every board he could find. He did this for about a month until he got to the bottom of the ship. And as he was prying one of the floorboards, it came loose. But it wasn't just the one board, it came loose in a square shape of many different boards. And these boards weren't quite like the rest. They were still almost fabric-like in texture, but they moved and they were rigid. And he moved them, and there was a little space, a little square-shaped space carved out into this. And there was a satchel, a bag. And Eric got really excited. He thought, this is it. Whatever is in this bag is what this ship has been hiding. What it has tried to distract people from with the fabric texture and the folding. And he put on some gloves. He picked up the bag, and very slowly, very carefully, he opened the satchel. Inside, there were small rocks. Confused at first, he looked at them for a while. He said, what are all these rocks doing in here? But then he remembered that the Vikings, the Nordic people, they had runes, supposedly, that were like the language of the universe, and they would put these runes onto rocks, call them rune stones. And they would serve as little symbols of great power. And Eric had studied the runes. And so he said in Nordic the word for reveal, because obviously he knew the language. He said reveal in the Nordic tongue. And then purplish pink light began to glow from the bag. And he looked in and he picked up one of the stones, and sure enough, there was a rune. And as he went through each stone, there was a rune on each one. And he said, "This is it. I found it. I am going to bring the gods back." So he took the satchel back to his laboratory, his place of work, his office. He kept doing experiments, each one with increasingly impressive results. One of the runes, the rune of the ox, it could either imbue him with great strength, like that of an ox, or it could summon one right next to him. The rune of ice froze anything it touched. The rune of Frey brought warmth, even in winter. And finally, he had gone through every rune and figured out a result. And he thought, "I know what to do with these." And he recalled the Vikings, the Nordic people. They thought that the runes were the language of the universe, that they could change reality itself. And then something clicked in his mind. This was the key. This was the key to bringing everything back. All the things that him and his father had been wanting to bring back for years. Years. He knew he could bring it to fruition now. He knew he could bring about his now deceased father's wishes and bring back everything. So, one day he picked up the satchel and he started laying out runestones, in a pattern, knowing that arranged in a specific order, he could rewind time or bring everyone back in time. And so he decided to not affect the people, but to affect everything around them, the earth, into going back to the point when the Nordic mythology was real, when it was most powerful. He started arranging runes on the table, but he realized he forgot one. No one really knows what that forgotten rune was, but by the time he realized, it was too late to fix, for the runes had already started glowing. They had already started the process of doing what he had told them to do. The one that he missed caused it so that everything went as he planned. The earth went back in time, but the people did not. But the thing is, it also brought back technology. It rewinded the earth, but it did not rewind the technology around it. It rewinded nature, it rewinded human belief, but it did not rewind modern advancements. And so these buildings, these huge skyscrapers, cars, bicycles, they were all brought back to the point where Nordic mythology was the strongest. But Eric figured it can't be that bad of a mistake. It can't be. It wouldn't be. He wouldn't let it be a mistake that would cost him his victory. He had finally done it. He had brought everything back. To his delight, as the rewinding stopped, he saw a dragon pass him overhead, one that spewed fire. Another dragon came out of the sea, spraying scalding hot water onto Viking ships. He saw villages of Nordic people, and he saw confusion at all the technology he had brought back. But best of all, the moment he did it, the moment he brought everything back in time, one of the gods came down to greet him. And that god was Odin himself. Odin, well, he wasn't happy. He was angry that somebody had put these strange structures into his land, the land he thought to be his, where his subjects were. The people of Midgard were his. That was his mindset. He had made the earth by killing Ymir and using the several million tons of materials that it dropped, that it created. He formed it into the earth, and he decided that since he had done that, since he had made the 9 realms out of the first giant, he decided they were his. And Odin was not happy. This man, this trespasser, would use his runes, his language, to bring strange structures and things that he didn't particularly want there. And so what he did is he came down, not knowing that this wasn't a source of fear for Eric. Eric was delighted, because this meant the gods were real. This meant that he had truly succeeded. Odin was real. This meant Thor and Loki and Freyr and Freya were all real. Mimir, all of them, all of the gods. He knew that they were real. He knew that all the legends, Fafnir and Bolverk, he knew they were all real. He knew Fjalar and Galar, the dwarves, who had killed the wisest man alive, Kvasir. He knew that Kvasir was real. He knew that the dwarves who had killed him were real. He knew that Kvasir's mead was real. He knew everything that he had studied, told to people. He knew it was all true. This was a source of celebration for him. But Odin didn't like that this newcomer was happy at his arrival. He was used to having people cower in fear. So, with a wave of his hand, Odin started putting runes in the air. But before they could do anything, Eric realized what the runes were and what Odin intended to do. And he pulled out his own rune satchel, and he used a combination of quickly grabbed runes to disappear. No one has seen him to this day being the War of the Gods. See, when all this modern technology was catapulted back, it confused a lot of gods, and there had just been a peace brokered. Maybe 50 to 100 years ago, between the Aesir and Vanir, the two sides of gods, a peace had just been brokered. But this modern technology catapulted them back into war. The Aesir thought that the Vanir were behind it, and the Vanir thought that the Aesir was behind it. The modern technology was encroaching on both territories, and neither side was happy, so it sent the gods into a flurry of war. Worse, this time it affected everything around it. Every element, every thing of nature, fire, water, nature, death, magic, and machinery were all forced to choose sides. The newly added machinery decided to go with the most appealing choice, which was death, because he knew death conquered all enemies. He knew death was the best. The side of machines knew that death eventually conquers all. Fire also went with death, because where there is fire, eventually there will be death. Which left water to go with the side of nature, along with magic to go with that side also. It was a huge war that, at the time of me telling this story, has just kicked off. It's been going for about a year or so. And neither side is doing well. Everything is in chaos. The side of fire and death and machines has burned so much natural land and has burned the oceans, has killed so much ocean life. All the sea life, all the coral, it's all dying. And on the other side, death has started to lose its ground. Fire doesn't burn where it's supposed to. And machines have all come to a standstill. Nothing works. And so everything is in chaos. No one can grow any food because all the plant life is destroyed. Nobody can start a fire to keep warm because it won't light in the fireplaces. The only places fire burns are where the natural life thrives. Ocean life is all dying, it's withering, it's decaying, so there's no fish to eat. But the elderly and the sick are forced to suffer because they don't die. And the magic is starting to diminish because of the machines that are making it so, and the machines are starting not to work anymore. Nobody can get anything done. The forges aren't working to make new weapons. None of the modern advancements that people had sort of been wondered by at first. It was wonderful, it was beautiful. It had all started to not work. And that is where I will leave this story until set 2 releases. I can't tell you anything about it, but a certain side goes away entirely, and the other one starts to thrive. But you won't know which until set 2 releases. So, if you liked the story up to this point, like, subscribe, because that will help me to get videos out more regularly, which will in turn allow me to work on set 2 more. And once set 2 comes out, that is the point when part 2 for the story comes out. This was part 1, like a half hour long, sort of. So, it's kind of a long video, but I'm pretty happy with this. This story, I've worked pretty hard on it. I've thought a lot about it, and so hopefully things kind of fit together, and make an intriguing story, and hopefully you want to hear more. But I will see you in the next video. I have an art video that's supposed to come out, and after that, I don't know what the next one will be. Maybe more art, maybe some add-ons to the story, maybe anything else. If you enjoyed the story, like and subscribe, share it with friends. That would be very helpful to share. But yeah, thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.